Hello and welcome to The Studio Demands It, an exercise in creative thinking where we will conceptualize, pitch, and craft a film or series based on the demands or stipulations from one of you listeners acting as a hypothetical Hollywood overlord.
Overlord.
We talk movies all the time.
All the time.
No, I jumped in.
All the time.
As professional screenwriters ourselves and massive cinephiles, we talk movies all the time.
All the time.
And we'd like to believe ourselves capable of meeting any demand thrown at us. We will be your screenwriters for this episode. I am TC DeWitts, and joining me, as always, is... Oh, I didn't write one down. Jim...
I didn't write one down.
Ugly Cry Brzezek.
Oh, God.
Jim Ugly Cry Brzezek.
I cry beautifully.
You do?
I don't.
Do you
I
cry?
Don't.
Do you
I cry ugly. I cry real ugly.
You get your shoulders in there, and it's kind of like you put your bottom lip over your bottom row of teeth.
I cry in the way that like ladies are always like, why don't men show more emotion? Just cry if it's in there. Just let it out. It's okay. And then I do, and they're like, I regret asking this. I question everything about emotions.
Just snot bubble.
Oh yeah.
Right there, and just do you cry often in movies? What did we see recently, and you were like, "Damn you for taking me a movie that made me feel things."
I mean, that's really every movie.
Do you cry?
I'm pretty easy to tear up.
Okay, I am as well. Like I will, as soon as there's a swell of strings, I'm like, oh boy, here it comes. I like getting lost in the characters and getting lost in the emotions and connecting. And hey, you get something like Everything Everywhere All at Once, when mother and daughter finally unites over their agreed upon nihilism and moving beyond that. It's like, yes. It
doesn't even need to be a big thing. Just like a small. And that's the last time I talked to my dad. As build up for a backstory for a character, a little part of me, like I feel that twinge.
Yeah, we've seen some blockbusters over the course of summer. There's even like a third act possibility in one of the more recent ones where I'm like, no, don't, you can't just abandon, no, and like oh god, When's the last time you had like a really good cry in a movie?
I'm not going to remember.
I can remember just having a full breakdown in Endgame.
Oh yeah,
like more than once, like having the sobbing, like just spoilers for Endgame, but the like Tony Stark sacrifice himself and the funeral situation, just like you can rest now, soldier. Steve saying goodbye and all that. But I even remember like just weeping at the closing credits where it's everyone's signature coming up, like Star Trek: The Undiscovered Country, where I was like, yeah, they have come so far. Oh, there's Jeremy Renner's signature. Just a mess. Just a sobbing, blubbering mess through a good chunk of that movie. I like a good cry. What can I say? I lose myself in the film and I emotionally connect. And sometimes I'll surprise myself. We saw another blockbuster that offered us up the death of a character, and while I was very sad and disappointed that it happened, I didn't have the emotional response I thought I would, without going into details about it. But I was just like, I wonder if it's because the person next to me is so pissed off that this is happening that I can't have the emotional response that I want to have.
That's a part of it. Like there were characters, there were deaths in that movie.
Speaking in code, keep going.
Yeah, there were deaths in that movie that I feel you would have had bigger reactions to. Not necessarily tearing up, just like bigger oh no's or just bigger things. If it wasn't for that person next to you, what a dumb code we're talking in right now.
Don't ruin the
people
movie.
Come to podcasts to hear people not mention movie names so that they can talk about people they don't know.
Surely there are people listening who have had that situation of having a really emotional response to a movie, like a heartbreaking, sobbing response to a film. Surely you've been out there, but also there has to be people out there who have had instances of movie reactions being ruined. You know what? We had a nice lengthy conversation about Star Wars before we started today's episode, And I believe I've told this story before, but a spoiler for Force Awakens, I still feel weird about saying this one. When Han Solo is leading up to that moment, the dude next to me had a stand up and shout reaction in the middle of a midnight sold out theater to that happening. And I was like, I want to react to this, but I also can't because this is happening right here.
Yeah.
I believe I've shared that on the air before, but it took a second viewing going to see it to then cry my eyes out. But speaking of emotions and responses as such, why don't we get in today's demand, Jim?
Oh, okay.
So let's get started. Jim, our listeners have given us demands from studios literally all over the world. And you listening right now, you can send us any demand you'd like, and we will have to meet it right here on the spot. And when we reach the end of the episode, if we've done our jobs right, we will have pitched a full story, meeting or even exceeding those demands. And when the end of the season comes, your demand could have helped us craft the script that is greenlit by the fans for our finale. The finale might be a little tough considering the actors' strike that's happening right now.
Yeah.
That's a conversation that's behind the curtain for a moment. But just our last season, we had a full cast table read of, and well, we did it for Justice League as well. But specifically last year, we actually got all in a room together and did our Amazing Spider-Man 3. We TBD how the finale goes for this season because it's coming up. This is we're getting there, but we'll see. Your demand could be this episode, whatever. Your demand could be what turns into the finale script. So thank you, everyone who keeps submitting and keep them coming. Thank you so much for what you've given us so far. It never stops being fun, and when it will eventually stop being fun, we will begrudgingly keep going. Okay. Today's demand, Jim, comes from Lon from Puckster Studios. Are you ready? Okay, here we go. From Lon. For a time, Pixar was king of the animated mountain. But since Toy Story 4, and some would argue before that, the brand has been diminishing in either quality or audience response. Elemental, Turning Red, Luca, Lightyear, Onward, I forgot about Onward, and Soul are all fine movies, but none of them have captured the zeitgeist like Toy Story, Cars, Nemo, and Monsters, Inc. Have you seen any of those named movies? You saw Elemental.
I've seen
I know
a
that.
handful of them.
Lightyear. I know we saw that together.
Of the newer ones?
Of the newer ones, yeah.
Lightyear, Elemental. I think that might be it.
Did you see Soul?
No.
No. Yeah, Onward, Luca, Soul. No. Those, Turning Red, those all got dumped onto Disney Plus day of or not even released to theaters at all. And I think that played a... We'll get into that. Let me finish the demand here. Where was I? Okay. Back in the Top Shelf Disney days, which was a podcast I previously participated in, TC often... Don't say, oh, like you didn't know that.
What? So when discussing these, I feel like I'm the voice of the audience that isn't
I'm sorry.
inside
I'm attacking
and necessarily
you. I'm
knows.
attacking. I apologize.
And also, I forgot about that podcast you were on. I thought it was part of the other podcast you were on.
This is sweet. So Lon listened to the Top Shelf. This is great. Back in the Top Shelf Disney days, TC often mentioned the Pixar method and excerpts from Creativity Inc. Yes, I did, often. It seemed the brand was bulletproof, but is it possible that Pixar has lost their way? Does their method still work? Have they lost their power? The growing misses say that might be true. My studio has teamed up with Pixar with the intention of capturing the magic of early Pixar. The demand I present to you two is to take the Pixar method and conceptualize, craft, and pitch a truly Pixar movie. Jim, we have to come up with a Pixar movie.
Okay.
Lon, thank you, especially for following me over from Top Shelf, from the Disney podcast. That is a podcast I did a while back for Ghost Hat Productions with Jeff Bell. We did the entire Disney Animation Studios library, which didn't include Pixar. It was specifically the 60 movies that have been released under the label Disney Animation Studios. It's a very particular set of movies. It's not the Goofy movie. It's not Pixar. It's not Brave Little Toaster. It's a very specific group of films, and I have such cherished memories of. Speaking of crying,
Brave Little Toaster is Disney?
Brave Little Toaster was purchased by Disney and released
I did not
independently
know
of them. Yeah, it might even be Touchstone if I'm remembering correctly. Iron Giant, also technically a Disney movie, but not. That's Brad Bird actually, who ended up being a huge part of Pixar. The speaking of crying, the last episode of Top Shelf, Jeff and I both made each other like really choke up and weep.
Yeah.
And even listening back, Jeff dropped in the announcement of Walt Disney opening Disneyland. And I'm like, thinking it now, I'm choking up. Like, Jeff did such a crafty job of. Anyhow, the Pixar method, Jim. I'm tearing up, Jim. I can't. Pixar. We have to come up with a Pixar movie. Are you ready to take on this demand?
Yep.
Good, because we're gonna do it right now. So Creativity Inc. was brought up in here. The Pixar method. The co-founder of Pixar, Ed Catmull, wrote Creativity Inc., and it is the story of the foundation and creation and the methodology of Pixar. It is I cannot recommend it enough. It is one of my writing Bibles. If you are a storyteller, you have got to get this book. A lot of the nuts and bolts of how they craft the stories seem like common sense, but you would or maybe wouldn't be surprised how often the very simple ideas of storytelling structure aren't followed.
Yeah.
in film.
For a long time, I've had bookmarked I think it's 22 rules of Pixar storytelling.
Yes, we will definitely be looking at that today.
And I know one of the rules is if there's two characters that do the same thing, make it one character.
Yes, combine characters.
And the thing is, you're talking about like they seem like such obvious rules. The thing is, I knowingly bristle against that rule. Like, no, more characters. I love lots of characters. So that's actually when I have a hard time.
Well, then make them different. If you want a lot of characters, make them different.
Fair. I didn't think of that.
Yeah,
I just like, no, the characters are the same and they are two people.
No, it can. And if it is important for you to say like have a Sherry and Terry Simpson style, then make that part of the gag. In Bug's Life, there's a couple of, is it the tumbling bugs that are the same, so they actually act as an entity? I don't know. Yeah. The Pixar method, their story development process is a very carefully designed thing because it has been designed to result in a balance between art and commerce. And like they are aware of that. They are creating merchandisable properties. That is something they take into, and I think maybe that's where they've gone wrong recently. Like Elemental, we saw it. It's a beautiful looking film, but it is not connecting to a merchandisable property. It is not.
No. Like the designs, it feels like there is design work there to be merchandisable. It just doesn't go the full length that previous Pixar movies did.
Like Cars.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to think like a kid trying to market to children. I like buying an Elemental playset just doesn't really do anything. Like the water people, there should be an entire line of summer water play toys,
things and sponges.
Squirt guns, tub toys, things like that. And off the top of my head, I can't think of any. I can think of dishware, making that pitcher, making the pitcher that the fire girl makes.
This is not to say that Pixar hasn't had success. They said Toy Story 4. I would argue Coco is the peak of their power. Coco was the longest developed Pixar movie, and it looks incredible. They took 7 years. They took longer to produce Coco than any movie before it.
So I didn't see Coco, but I know enough about it because I think it had a very large advertising campaign, and it was in a lot of places, and everyone who saw it really liked it. I didn't really pick up like the whole merchandisable thing. Like there was merchandise for it, but even by then I would I don't know. Maybe there was, and I just didn't know because I don't spend all my day in the toy aisle. Maybe there was a line of cute skeleton people.
Well,
toys.
It certainly spoke to a culture that has been underrepresented in the past.
Sure.
My sister is married to a Hispanic American, and so her children are half, and they fell in love with Coco because it was showing them things they hadn't seen. They need to watch Book of Life by Guillermo del Toro because it's so good. But the technical peak that is Coco, the story peak that is Coco, it is on the level of WALL-E and Up, which were both nominated for Best Pictures. Going back to that classic original run of Toy Story and Monsters Inc. and Finding Nemo and Cars, like those are peak merchandising. But those are from the 90s and the early 2000s. It is a whole generation has passed. And the more recent ones, Elemental, Lightyear, Turning Red, Luca, Soul, Onward, those aren't leaving the mark on pop culture that the previous Pixar movies did. And I think some of that comes from cynicism of us adults watching these and expecting us and the people around us to react like we did when we were younger watching those original ones. And that's just modern movie-going cynicism, I think.
Sure, I'm bringing up a list to know for sure because I very quickly lose track of Pixar movies. So, starting at that beginning, the first Pixar movie I missed was Ratatouille.
Okay.
Oh no, sorry, Cars. I missed Cars. So I saw Up Through Incredibles. Then I missed Cars, Ratatouille, saw WALL-E, saw Up, saw Toy Story 3. Right back out with Cars 2.
Yeah. Brave, Monsters University, Inside Out is so good. Good Dinosaur.
I missed all of these.
Yeah. Good Dinosaur is a fair argument for the worst one because it's so forgettable. I argue Cars 2 is the worst one because it is only merchandising. It is only a car. It is only a toy commercial, and I find it obnoxious.
Wow, I saw nothing until Elemental.
Wow, so you've been out of the game for a bit, and
yeah.
So what we're being asked to do here is to come up with we're coming up with a Pixar movie. We're coming up with an animated film that utilizes Pixar's method. And going off of Creativity Inc., I have little bookmarks that I keep post-it notes of on my computer that I can look to when writing to break down Pixar to its simplest form. I know it's in the 22 rules of Pixar storytelling. I think it's number 4. It's their commandments. But it's once upon a time there was blank. Every day, blank. One day, blank. Because of that, blank. Because of that, blank. Until finally, blank. That is the core of, well, any story really, but that's where Pixar begins. They take that very simple once upon a time, this, because of that, until.
Okay.
It's I recommend Dan Harmon's Story Wheel and also 6 Days to Air. It's a mini documentary about how South Park writes their stuff. And Trey and Matt do a very clear, it's always this because of this. They never do non sequiturs. Everything happens as cause and effect.
Okay.
And Pixar has their once upon a time method. Give me a moment here as I ramble off text to you.
Sure.
So, so Ed, the Creativity Inc. Ed Catmull breaks down very clearly how they structure their stories, and they encourage their creators to watch Hitchcock and Spielberg and Tarantino, and don't look to other children properties. Look at cinema.
Yet they looked at a whole bunch of children's properties for all those early bangers.
Yes, I did. But like the first act is critical. You have to hook the audience during the first act, or because it's aimed at families. Children have to be taken into account here, and the children in all of us. If you don't hook someone in the first act, they're going to leave before the movie's over, and that goes beyond merely creating a strong opening scene that grabs the audience by the throat. That you have to establish everything they need to know up front, the context, the main characters, the stakes, the obstacles to overcome, and a sense of how they're going to do it. That all needs to be put up front and clearly, whether it's a fish dad who loses his fish son.
Sure.
Or if it's a inventor bug who has to go hire the three amigos, or seven samurai. The second act is all about escalation, and the third act is all about resolution. But the Pixar method is to create an emotional bond with the audience.
Yeah.
It's the emotion. That's why I called you a crybaby at the beginning of this.
Oh, I thought you were just being mean.
No, if I'm going to be mean, I'm going to reach over and pull your beard. I'm going to do it now.
Oh, ah.
Yeah, that's what you get for having such a long beard. I can reach from here.
I mean, I didn't think that through when I grew it.
So we'll go back to like the 22 rules and whatnot, but we need a protagonist. We need an antagonist, typically another character, and we need a journey to set them on. So what do we do, Jim? I know there's the joke of like, it used to be a fun meme, and now it's become sort of like more of that cynicism. What if toys had emotions?
Sure.
What if fish had emotions?
Well,
what if emotions had emotions?
I don't like that was turned into a quirky, smirking, snide thing.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
I honestly, I love stuff. And actually, at dinner, the joke about Stephen, the joke from Family Guy about Stephen King saying, it's about a haunted lamp.
Ooh.
It's going to get you. And I got bent out of shape because I'm like, no, that actually, it could be a viable thing because it's not about the stupid lamp. It's about the journey of the person being haunted by the lamp and how weird and insane and absurd this situation is and how their life is turned upside down by, of all things, a lamp.
And Stephen King would write the hell out of it, and it would
He
be
would.
a terrifying. You would like not want to leave your lamp on because haunted lamp.
And I feel like you can reduce it to like, oh, what if it's a haunted lamp? Cool. Now we're going to explore the how and why of all that and what that means to the person who is being haunted.
And putting that in the craftsmanship hands, the craftsman's hands of Stephen King.
Yeah.
It'll be an intense exploration.
Yeah, because when you and when you reduce Pixar movies to just what if toys had emotions? What if, like, that is what they are, and that's a fine starting point. And to kind of mock it, I feel is undermining what is honestly a very fertile way to storytell.
If that's the starting point, the fact that they do their shorts, the Pixar shorts, like they did one about an umbrella who lost his companion umbrella.
A lot. There's a lot of cartoons and stuff that we love, or maybe we don't love, that can be summed up that way. Osmosis Jones. What if germs had feelings? Or right? It's
a Farrelly Brothers movie.
Is it?
It is.
What if I had a bunch of them?
What if dogs had emotions?
Yeah.
I love dogs.
Brave Little Toaster. What if appliances had emotions?
Yeah.
And we love these movies. They're iconic and they're memorable and
people think they're being funny by saying that joke again instead of making it a truism, which is like, what if cars had emotions?
Why did the chicken cross the road?
Well, Chicken Run. There's another great one that's from Armin. Oof. Yeah, to reduce it to that is unfair because you could reduce every movie to something stupid like that and make a gag out of it and either be humorous about
what
it.
What if forests went to space? You get Groot and Rocket.
Oh, trash panda. So let's find a subject matter here, because another thing that Pixar talks about is you don't have to take the write what you know like as written law, because what we know are emotions and experiences in all its the vast versions of that, right? So it is the fear of losing your best friend and putting that in the hands of a toy, the fear of not being as good as you once were and putting that into a car and doing a sports movie out of that, right? So it's in writing what we know, it's injecting the life and characters into these objects or things. And there is something that as we've been sitting here now trying to like in the back of my mind think like what should our movie be about. I don't know if you've thought of anything to pitch yet, but
no, I just keep thinking of either things Pixar's already done or other major properties like video game characters. That's Wreck-It Ralph.
Wreck-It Ralph. I know that's Disney. That's fine. I corrected him.
Or Mario, I guess.
So the
Well, no, but so you're right. That is Disney, but like I feel like Pixar would be very specific and careful if they were to repeat even something like that, right? Because when I said they went and remade children's stories, right? Toy Story is The Christmas Gift. Cars is that one short by Disney. I always forget the name of.
It's Doc Hollywood.
It's Doc Hollywood. They've done it. Several stories are just seem to be kind of like upcycled other children's stories.
One of the rules in the 22 rules is, and maybe I could find it, but it's like, think of a movie you really like. Why do you like it?
Sure.
Break it down to its parts. Tell that story again, which is, I said Seven Samurai and Three Amigos for Bug's Life.
Yeah.
Because it is, and that's fine. Something Pixar has never done, and it might be deliberate, is they have not told any true stories, not or based on reality stories. Like they have not drawn any historical figures to do movies about. Like they have Merida as the archer in Scotland, but she's not based on anyone. She's just a story of it's a rebellious teenager set in the dark ages of Scotland.
Do you have an idea?
No, not particular. I don't have one like on hand, but Oppenheimer is what I'm thinking.
Oh, okay.
Pixar presents Oppenheimer. I'm just wondering if that may be deliberate, that Pixar hasn't done that, so that they haven't delved into historical fiction. Essentially, is what I'm suggesting.
It's because I feel like it obviously doesn't have to be. It can actually sort of tell, and the best ones do tell the resonant stories that relate to humans at any time. But I feel like they stay away from that because they want to tell. They want to tell stories that are I don't know how to word this. That aren't based in real life in anything like that. They want to tell essentially archetypal stories, not specific. These were people stories.
Sure.
Even if they are archetypal lessons to learn.
And they are.
Yeah.
There was a movie called Valiant that came out in like the early 2000s, 2005-ish, that's about carrier pigeons in World War II. And it's based on an actual thing. That the Brits actually used carrier pigeons, and it's a war movie. Ewan McGregor voiced the main pigeon.
Nice.
And just they're delivering messages on the battlefront. So I'm just to get the ball rolling on what our subject matter should be. 30 minutes into this episode.
The other thing I think of, the other thing I thought of is doing Shakespeare, right? Like technically, Disney. It was again Disney. Disney did Hamlet for Lion King.
Kimba, the white lion. Yeah. So you must avenge my death, Kimba. I mean Simba. Yes, Hamlet as Lion King. Sure. Well, would you? What Shakespeare would you yank from?
The only other one that I'm super familiar enough with would be Midsummer Night's Dream.
Plenty of ripe material. It's a big cast of characters too.
It is. Interestingly, minorly related to a thing I read online. What is that play about?
What is Midsummer Night's Dream about?
Yeah.
You put me on the spot to analyze some Shakespeare right now. It's about a bunch of horny teenagers who get lost in the woods and tricked into loving each other.
It's true. So maybe this isn't the story we go with. Because Pixar stories they're about an identifiable thing you can point at, usually real quick.
Yes.
So maybe that's not the right way to go. Macbeth. Let's do Macbeth. Murder.
Othello. Murder. All the Shakespeare, but Romeo and Juliet, murder. Yeah. Well, no, we had Nomeo and Juliet, and that's not Pixar. But okay, we need a subject matter because they're all around us, and they're more around you at home. Board games.
Okay. Now what if board games had feelings?
Well, maybe. Okay. This might delve too closely to Toy Story territory.
Yeah, it does get kind of close.
Okay.
I guess board games are widely known enough that people could identify them. I actually was on that route is how I got to video games, and then I was like, but Wreck-It Ralph.
Yeah. And we wouldn't want to do like an old board game as being worried about being replaced by a video game because that's Toy Story.
Yeah. It's also Cars.
Yeah, sure. Cars 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the trick here right now is what is our subject matter? two things to consider. We should come up with a protagonist first, which leads into the what should this be about? Like, who should this be about? And secondly, one of the rules of Pixar is you won't know what the story is about until it's done. Until you've written the story, then you'll know what it's about. So they don't appear to come into a story and say, we're going to tell a story about the loss of, like, about death, about the loss of a loved one. Now let's write a story around that. They choose a setting and a character to put in that setting, and then they start telling a story, and then they go, oh, that's what this is about. That appears
how
to
very
be,
Miyazaki.
Yeah. Well, that's not a knock on it. That's actually
Sure. Yeah. No, it's not.
Yeah. Lasseter loves freaking Hayao Miyazaki, and Miyazaki, yeah, for those who might not be in the know, starts animating the movies without a script. He makes it up as he goes along, as it's coming to life, and then the movies come to fruition. He's such a goddamn genius that's like, beautiful. You mean you didn't have this in your head to begin with? How did you do that? So therein lies the question: our protagonist, our setting. Where do you want to go? We've been in the ocean. We've been on the racetrack. We've been in a toy box. We've been elements. We've been a sea creature. We've been souls in the afterlife. We've been. I was just saying.
No, audiences have visited all of these vistas.
We've been rats.
We've been dinosaurs.
We've been dinosaurs. We've been
we've been robots in space.
Really, one of the anomalies here is Lightyear, because it's
Lightyear, Ratatouille, and Brave all have people as characters.
But even Lightyear is such a weird thing because that's the movie Andy saw.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So that's such an anomaly of a movie, and there's so many. We could do an episode on Lightyear about we would have done it this way.
Sure.
The studio demands a Buzz Lightyear movie. Cool. There's an entire cartoon series we can draw from, but that's neither here nor there. Superheroes, the Day of the Dead, like the afterlife, emotions, monsters, like. And then another thing, we're like, what are we doing, Jim?
Yeah.
But there's a lot of things we can't do. We can't do pets. Pets exists as a universal franchise.
Sure.
So we're not going to do dogs and cats unless you want to do a Pixar Pets movie. And then even then it's like, what new story can we tell that? Like, even that first Pets movie, I'm sorry to say, that's just Toy Story.
Yeah.
Dog is being replaced by a new dog and mad about it. And then they get lost and have to journey back and become friends.
An early thought I had is what would a Pixar Tom and Jerry movie look like?
So slapsticky, revenge.
It doesn't. I'm saying, like, reduce it down to the thing Pixar would take and then do something with. The relationship between a cat and mouse, right? Once upon a time, there was a cat and a mouse, and they would they would chase each other
every day. They would chase each other. One day,
a dog moves in,
right?
Do
because of that,
like Rex or whatever.
Because of that,
actually, are we just going down the path of didn't we do a Tom and Jerry?
We had a Tom and Jerry discussion. We never did a full episode on it, but because so a dog has entered into the house. Because of that, the cat has started to being chased. Because of that, the cat and the mouse team up until they finally defeat the dog and become friends.
Sure,
right.
Something like that, right? Or the until one day the cat catches the mouse.
And bites his head off, and blood runs down his muzzle, and now that he's had the taste of blood in his mouth, he decides to go after the dog. You're next, pal.
Yeah. Shining, but with pets.
Yeah. Red rum.
Presented by Pixar.
It would be amazing. I'd sign up for that. Ghosts.
Doesn't Ghosts come a little close to Soul? I guess not. No, Ghosts specifically is lives that have ended and have lives that have persisted beyond mortality.
Sure. And now Soul does touch on that in a way.
Does it?
Soul all takes place in the afterlife, and then they're getting reassigned to be reborn.
Okay.
And one of them will not really cannot be assigned. It's a mentor apprentice situation. And then Tina Fey ends up in Jamie Foxx's body, and it's being on Earth is fun. I do want to be reborn.
Okay.
Yeah. But Ghosts specifically, if we do like a Pixar horror movie, You
Sure,
have not seen
yeah.
Monsters University,
No.
but the third act finale, like the climax of the movie, is an Evil Dead
Oh,
homage.
fun.
a camp, a haunted camp room with bunks going nuts and But let's well, maybe there's something there, like a horror Pixar movie, and not horror in that we're gonna truly terrify children, but
Crap, I had one. You said ghosts.
Mm-hmm.
Movies or books? What if movies had feelings?
what if movies had feelings? Okay.
And I figured that plays into our wheelhouse.
Well, I mean, horror plays into
does.
into our wheelhouse as well. More yours than mine.
What if knives?
What if,
What if knives had feelings?
weapons had feelings? I know we're getting bloody again.
Oh, I mean, Pixar hasn't done one, but what if food had feelings? That's
Sausage Party.
But that is very different than what a Pixar movie would do.
Yeah. And what I bump up against there, and which is what Sausage Party makes fun of, is food exists to be destroyed.
It's true.
Yeah. Okay, so Onward is about it's bright. It's a future
Sure.
world where magic had once existed, like Lord of the Rings, but now it's modernized to it's modern day. Magic has sort of gone away, and people just exist with like
As is.
centaurs and gremlins and all that. Like, and then a magic staff is discovered, and they go on a quest to try to bring their dad back from the dead. 'Cause
Okay.
they've only been able to resurrect his legs.
Sure.
It's very that movie was one of those situations where I'm like, this is good, but where's that Pixar moment? And then when it hits, oh man. But they've played in that. What about mythological creatures like leprechauns or gnomes or fairies, pixies in so human characters interacting with fantasy characters.
Darby O'Gill? and
Darby O'Gill and the Little People, Jim. Yes, the gnome mobile is gonna ride again. So like the cobbler and the elves, like there's a piece of ancient fable right there about the cobbler who the shoes keep getting made in the night, and it's the underwear gnomes. I'm sorry, it's the it's the cobbler, and yeah, the elves are showing up and finishing the shoes for him. So like we could do we could set in some sort of a period piece of sorts, what if Pixar did American Gods?
Interesting. You really want to do something historical?
I don't know. I'm just throwing spaghetti at the wall,
it's okay.
Jim. We need something.
We can do that. Let's do that. Let's do Cobbler and the Elves. Right. Just that term, cobbler. It can apply to people who fix shoes now, but it evokes sort of anywhere from Middle Ages to the Renaissance kind of
Sure.
notion to me, right? Like I very much think Geppetto-looking people.
Maybe I'm being drawn towards humans and history, like setting, because Lightyear is our far-flung future. Brave is set in the past. Pretty much all of these movies, if they're not fantastical worlds like Cars, take place contemporarily.
Sure.
It's contemporary setting. So Inside Out is today, and Turning Red is today, and Toy Story is today. So it just feels like if we tried to, like, oh, it's water bottles, oh, it's board games, oh, it's food, like that sets itself kind of modern and starts to feel like we're just moving into parody territory. So by specifically saying this is going to take place 1,000 years ago, and it's going to deal with pixies and leprechauns and whatnot.
We can do that. I feel one of the reasons, clearly it's not a rule, but I feel like one of the reasons Pixar tends to not do that, and by making things contemporary, it makes them more relatable.
Sure, but not necessarily.
I agree. But I just think that's why there are so many that way. We don't have to do that. We can set something
go the brave route.
Yesteryear.
Yeah. And it could also be like an alt history if we want to do steampunk, like this is a steampunk reality, so it is the 19th century, but technology exists. What if Pixar did Wild West? So I think, like, what if Pixar did an American Gods type thing where it's like the unseen spirits and forces around humans, like Cobbler and the elves. Those elves helping a cobbler. Okay, well that's could be a starting point there. But what other fictional, fantastical creatures could exist once the veil is lifted for a character? It's like once upon a time there was a cobbler. Every day he worked on the shoes. One day shoes were made for him.
Cool.
And he discovered
this is what we're doing.
Okay.
Let's go on break. I feel I maybe I unnecessarily so I feel like we were rushing to a thing to go to the break to come back to then work on the thing.
We can.
And that's
okay.
You don't have to sell me any further.
Okay, all right. I didn't set out to win this argument. We needed something, and this is what I'm throwing out there. Okay, so we're gonna take the break here. We'll come back and we're gonna discuss, I don't know, what else.
That was this story. That was the cobbler.
You just remembered a story that was this story? The cobbler and the elf?
Yeah.
Okay.
It ends with the cobbler going on to create a huge, big shoe industry, and he runs a giant corporation and employs all the elves.
Well, we're not going to do that.
Okay.
But so the cobbler and the elf, a humble cobbler struggling to make ends meet, leaves leather for shoes overnight for the elves that he believes exist. The elves craft exquisite footwear in gratitude. They help the cobbler because he shown kindness and generosity by leaving the leather out for them, acknowledging their existence, and expressing their gratitude for their craftsmanship. The cobbler's compassionate actions touch their hearts, prompting them to repay his kindness and using their magical abilities. Okay, so that is the cobbler and the elves. So, once upon a time, there was a cobbler, and every day he left out little pieces of extra leather for the elves he believed in. One day, the elves appeared to him. Because of that, he is sucked into their world, or he's brought into their world. He believes that they because that he now knows they exist. Because of that, the evil elves also exist, or whatever the counterpart to them. I'm not doing a good job using the Pixar sentence structure here, but essentially, it's if our main character, our little cobbler here, believes in the elves, and everyone around the cobbler says, "You are crazy," and the cobbler says, "I don't care. I believe in the elves. I leave out the leather for them." And
sorry, I know you're trying to find it. So, the first tale. A poor, hardworking shoemaker had so little leather that he could only make a single pair of shoes. One evening, leaving the pair with the work unfinished, he went to bed and commended himself to God. After waking up the next morning and saying his prayers, he found the shoes completely finished and perfectly well made in his workbench. A customer soon entered the store and offered more than the usual price, for he was fond of the pair. The shoemaker uses the money to buy leather for more shoes, which, after cutting, he also leaves overnight. Again, the materials are made into beautiful shoes. By morning, in this manner, his situation improves until he is comfortable again. One evening, shortly before Christmas, the shoemaker said to his wife, "Why don't we stay up tonight and see who's giving us this helping hand?" And his wife agreed. Hiding in the corner of the room, they saw two little men working quickly and nimbly on the shoes, then running away after the work was completely finished. The next morning, his wife said, "The little men have made us wealthy. We must show them our thanks. They are running around with nothing on, freezing." She proposed to make clothes, and the shoemaker agreed to make a pair of shoes for each of them. The two of them did not stop until they had finished the work, then hid themselves again. The following night, the couple saw the little men delighted as they tried the beautiful little clothes and shoes. They danced out of the house and never returned, but the shoemaker prospered in his business. Oh, and there's two more versions of the tale.
Okay.
That was the first one.
Okay, so I think there's something to this. I think this is a good. You already agreed to it, so we're going to try to go down this path.
Sure.
But having someone believe in these elves and being told no, that's not a real thing, and then to be proven correct, but then sucked into some sort of adventure involving the elves, and then returning having prospered. And if this so one of the rules is the protagonist should have a flaw. And if the flaw of this character is generosity to the point of being a pushover, like always just yes, whatever you like. I'm easily bullied because I always just agree. That's the thing that the cobbler has to overcome. Is you gotta stand up for yourself. Sooner or later, someone taking advantage of you needs to be told no. Is that enough of a flaw to be like you are proving yourself to be too nice? You're too generous. You're too much of a pushover. Stand up for yourself. Could be.
And so the idea is the flaw is what needs to be overcome
to stop being taken advantage of, maybe. Like okay, so so
what occurs to me, what I would going down that route, I don't mind the idea of starting that way. That suggests this guy is so generous that they basically give away the shirt on their back type thing. Yeah. And so it seems like this is the flaw, and then the little people show up and help him. And the thing is, the not so nice people in town look. They see something happening. They look to take advantage of either prospering off of this guy's strange ability to give away. Or actually, they probably initially set out to humiliate him. Right, like, oh, what a wonderful pair of shoes that you managed to make and sell before we could foreclose on your house. Can you make 100 pair for this thing coming through? If not, we shall something like that. And then he does, and then he has to go before the mayor or the king or something like that. And sort of he keeps getting put through trials that I feel like this is another fable or fairy tale that I'm
sounds a bit like
touching on.
Fool of the World and the Flying Ship, which is constantly being tasked with, okay, prove yourself this way. Okay, prove yourself this way. It's a Russian folklore.
Okay, and then and in so doing, the little people keep showing up and helping him, to the amazement of the people testing him and the people watching. So in the end, basically, I guess the lesson that I would want to move forward with is generosity isn't a flaw.
Sure.
This world will try to make you think it is. It will try to make you greedy and self-serving. But the people you help will putting good out into the world will return that good. That, to me, is sort of the lesson of the cobbler and the elves, and the direction that I would go with something like this.
Okay, yeah.
So less about like encountering trouble with the little people,
the magical world. Yeah. More of the trouble in the real world. Yeah. Okay, that's I like. There's something to that. It touches on some shades of Ratatouille without being the same.
Oh, sure.
That's fine.
Right.
That's fine. Ratatouille is about Remy. Is the main character of that, and
it's actually really close to that.
Not close enough.
No.
Ratatouille is about pursuing one's dream despite what society says is correct. Remy believes he's the best chef in the world and wants to prove it, and sets out to do so using Luigi as his avatar. And Luigi is the son of a great chef and needs to prove himself that way. It's different. It's different enough that I'm not like so looking at Creativity Inc. and whatnot, the protagonist has to want something badly enough that they will take action towards it. So if we have if we want our main characters, plural, to be the cobbler, the two cobblers, the cobbler and the spouse, that way another thing Pixar does is always having a counterpart opposite. It doesn't have to be the villain. The villain doesn't necessarily have to be the opposite of the protagonist, but the protagonist should have a counterpart that is so like joy and sadness. Perfect example of the opposite.
I'll believe you.
Yeah, you haven't seen Inside Out yet.
Yeah.
Well, it's literally the personification of joy and the personification of sadness, and they go on an adventure together. Because another thing Pixar is very much enjoys doing is the buddy story. Like the majority of their movies is a twofer. A two-hander that they send two unlikely friends, non-friends together on an adventure.
So I wouldn't want to make the cobbler's wife his opposite.
Cobbler's spouse. I did not specify.
You didn't, but because actually I feel like that I've seen versions of that story as well. Maybe not necessarily the shoemaker and the elves per se, but like where the workman does something in some way, and his wife, his spouse, needles him about not getting enough work done and us not having enough money because you're not doing.
I'm suggesting that if we have two cobblers, the cobbler and the spouse, they both believe in the elves. They are both believers, but one of them is much more the generous one, that is the one being taken advantage of by society, and the supportive, like, hey, I'm here to I'm your biggest cheerleader, but you need to stand up for yourself from some time. Like, there could be I'm trying to think of an example from the Pixar library. Mike and Sully from Monsters Inc.
Okay.
They have the same journey together, but they perceive it from two very different perspectives. Sully is a man of the people and the best of the best when it comes to the scare floor, and Mike is his hype man and his the mouth that the talker, and their brain and heart combined put the two of them on a journey together, and they are very much the opposite. One's tall, one's small, one's hairy, one's scaly. They work as the counterparts to each other on the adventure, and how they react to Boo, to Randall, to Waternoose is within their characters and often opposite of each other. Make sense?
Sure.
So if the cobblers are a duo, onward, it's two brothers. It is the van with the unicorn painted on the side, slacker bro, played by Chris Pratt, and the studious, nerdy Tom Holland, and the two of them are forced to go on an adventure to resurrect their dad. So they are opposites of each other, but not antagonistic to each other. So if we still put the cobbler forefront as our main character and supporting them, so it's like Mike and Sully. Sully is the main protagonist, and Mike is his supporting character. It's something in that vein.
Maybe. The other possible direction I'm thinking is their counterpart is the magical dudes or people,
the elves themselves
that come out and help him.
Well, you had said in the original story it's only two elves. I kind of like that idea, that it would be just two elves. Even reduce
for whatever reason, I want another version of the story. I think also does three.
Three is the magic number.
Three is a magic number. Yeah. So
giving us three very distinct personalities. I handle the laces. I'm the lace man.
Actually, I would also want, because of the way I like telling stories, I'd want to make allusions to the fates.
Sure. Okay. I just thought of something because I just said I'm the lace man, and that sort of sent my mind in a spiral. Cobbler and the elves, existing in this. Could it turn into a heist movie? That if it starts off as the standard fable of like getting the material, I don't have enough materials, but I still leave stuff out for the elves every night, and my generosity, the elves have bestowed me with their magic, and I don't know. Because I said the lace man, I'm imagining they have their specialties, and somehow turning this into we need to break in somewhere to get something back or some material for us, or
I would think almost like a reverse heist movie. Like I would think this cobbler and his miraculous shoemaking skills gets the attention of the wrong sorts, who grab him and demand he produce for them. Not to like for us to exploit you, but like prove that you are so amazing. We give you this scrap, and in the morning you best, almost like a reverse Rumpelstiltskin.
Okay.
So
she was
that. No, it basically
is Rumpelstiltskin.
Basically doing Rumpelstiltskin.
Yeah.
Do I want to just turn this into Rumpelstiltskin?
Rumpelstiltskin's the villain in Shrek the Third. Nope, Shrek the Fourth.
I didn't see that one.
That's okay. You didn't miss anything.
Also, in this case, we would be not doing that. In our Rumpelstiltskin would be a cohort. It'd be the cobbler and the magic people. That would be our squad.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Making miracles.
So the cobbler
making miracles happen.
If the cobbler is sequestered by the lord of this town and told to produce, this might be
and he does, and then he's like, no, that was an insufficient test. You must do it here, and to turn it into an adventure, right? Because we want to have an adventure of some kind. The Lord, after like 1 or 2 tests, is all like, nah, I can't have this guy in my town showing me up or being out of my control. So he sets him up to fail, right? Like, oh, you're gonna go here, and then like in the night, somebody comes to you'll have to Pixarify this. Somebody in the night comes to kill him, and to get him, and through shoemaking magic, the cobbler and the elves escape through daring do all of these dangers of this castle, and the Lord sort of literally is like, oh, if you're such a great cobbler, perhaps you can spend a night in the haunted manor, or something like that. Do your work in the manor, and the whole town knows. Oh, everyone who gets challenged to that, because our Lord's a jerk. Everyone who gets challenged to that never comes back, and then so he comes back in the morning. I don't know, with shoes for everyone, and everyone's like, "Oh, great!" And the Lord's all like, "I've been outdone. I must give up my lordship." I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, it's spiraling here, but okay. Let me try this. Cobbler and the elf. So Act 1, Cobbler and the Elf. This is a story. It's a cobbler who makes shoes magically. Gets the attention of the Lord. So we're going to escalate from there. The Lord, something about this magic suggests the cobbler is capable of some pretty incredible things. Well, we got ourselves a giant problem, Mr. Cobbler. You remind me of a tailor, a brave little tailor, if you will. Go take care of the giant. So then, questing to take care of the giant, and then having defeated or tricked a giant, then having to, Act 3, climb a beanstalk. So you go cobbler, brave little tailor, Jack and the Beanstalk as a 1, 2, 3 combo of a story of fantasy adventure. That is really just throwing it out there.
Sure.
Is there something to that? Is that too complicated?
I guess the currently the way I'm understanding them, the Brave Tailor and Jack and the Beanstalk don't play into the character notions of generosity and greed.
Sure. Yeah. I'm not saying we follow those to the letter.
I am.
Oh, well then. So looking at the Pixar, once upon a time there was a cobbler.
Yeah.
And every day he made shoes, leaving material for the elves he believes in.
So if he's able to, he wondrously produces these things. What if he's accused of being a wizard? And he's like, no.
Okay.
I'm just a shoemaker.
Yeah.
And under this pretense, like the Lord or the sheriff or whoever doesn't care for these shenanigans.
Yes.
And so we reverse the Brave Tailor, who thought he was bragging about killing a bunch of flies. Go kill the giant then. Instead, he's like, I just make shoes. And the Lord's like, sure, wizard, go take care of the giant.
Okay. Yeah.
Something
all right.
like that.
There we go. That's something. And we don't have to go full beanstalk up into the clouds if we don't want to. But once upon a time, there was a cobbler. Every day he left material for the elves. One day the elves show up and help him. Because of that, he's accused of being a wizard. Because of that, he has to go defeat a giant until finally he defeats the giant and returns a hero. Is that in its simplest form? Is there I think so. To look at the Once upon a time, there was a cobbler. Every day he made his shoes and left material for the elves that he believed in. One day the elves showed up and helped him because of his generosity. Because of that, he's accused of being a wizard. Because of that, he has to slay a giant.
My one quibble is he doesn't leave. I don't think he should leave materials for the little people. I think the little people basically live in his house unknown, and he lives in. He gives up everything. I think his generosity puts him into such destitution. The little people decide to help him
because
they can see how generous he is.
Okay, yes.
He does not know about these magical little people until they take pity on him,
right,
and help him. And then he's like, "Oh, you guys are great. That was awesome. Thank you. What can I do for you?" And they're like, "Man, just have yourself a sandwich, all to yourself, just one time.
Do you want some of the sandwich?
No, we want you to have it."
All right, I feel really bad about enjoying it in front of you.
Yeah.
Do you,
this feels just like too much just for me.
Yeah, like dude,
something like that. Now I realize I'm sort of taking any arc away from this character,
not necessarily,
because I want to lean in to his generosity is good.
Yeah,
and it's constantly put to the test, but it always comes out on top.
Okay, so his generosity being good, but people taking advantage. His flaw is. It might not be even him. He might be Luigi, not Remy. Our elf might be the one that needs to learn the lesson. I think it should be the cobbler. I think that we should thrust him through this like Flick in Bug's Life, but Flick's flaw is he's too smart for his own good, and he needs to just get his hands dirty and be open to improvisation and not think everything needs to be exactly the way it's supposed to be. So
to use another character that I'm thinking our cobbler has sort of a similar arc to,
sure,
with sort of almost a lack of, it's not a lack of an arc, is Aang from Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Okay, yeah.
Aang's arc, Aang's story is he goes from being this kid who he wants to have fun. He knows he's the Avatar. He's kind of afraid of it, but he eventually does embrace it. And then his later arc is everyone says you have to go to war. You have to fight the Fire Lord,
the Fire Nation. Yeah.
And in the end, spoiler.
It's a great series. If you haven't watched it, you totally should. Spoiler.
He finds a way to defeat the Fire Lord without killing him.
Yeah.
So in this, for example, right? Like I like the idea of this cobbler. He's just a generous, peaceful dude, and he keeps sort of being pushed into these like, you must go slay the giant. And he goes to the giant, and he's in the end, the way he solves this problem is he manages to talk to the giant, and maybe that's how we go up into the clouds. He talks the giant into going back up, maybe something like that.
There's something to that the power of kindness, that there is something to that. I do still think we need to focus on what is the flaw of the character that makes them relatable. Is what is he lacking that he can grow out of? Like, his generosity doesn't have to be the thing that needs to change, but there does need to be something about this character that we see change over time. Look at Willow. Willow himself. He's I'm working the field. I just want to work the field. I want to be the wizard for the village. I know I'm good enough, but I doubt myself. And even the elder knows I'm the right one for the job, but until I believe in myself, I don't get to be the wizard. And now I don't want to take care of this baby. All right, I'll do it, but I don't want to. Like, he is constantly saying, I don't want to do this, but I have to. I don't want to do this, but I have to. He's a good dude who is just thrust into the adventure he doesn't want in the first place.
What if we give him a dream? He never wanted to be a cobbler.
He aspires for something. Okay.
He one day was made the old cobbler's apprentice.
And he did it because he just says yes to everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I fix shoes. That's what I do. And he, like, early on in the movie, he mentioned, like maybe he has a picture. He mentions a thing he wants to do, or be. But no. I'm the cobbler. This is I fix shoes.
That's touching similarly on Elemental. She wanted to be an artist, but she had to take over her father's business, and that's the thing that she'd always wanted to do. I don't think it needs to be exactly like that, but having the thing, because he's so generous, he never allows himself the chance to do X.
So the difference with Elemental, it's an obligation.
Yes.
For this, I'm thinking he he can't envision himself. He doesn't see basically his flaw is he doesn't have the ambition to pursue what he truly wants. Is that the right way to phrase it?
No, I don't think that's the right way to phrase it. But I think I see what you're getting at. That if it's he doesn't make time for it because he makes time for everyone else. He's so giving of his time and energy. He has never made time to do the thing, and what he needs to do is be able to say no, not right now, so that he can take the moment to focus in on the one thing he wants to do. So then it's not because if he doesn't have ambition, then he's lazy, and that alters the character to just be this tired, like the dude.
Yeah.
The dude from Lebowski, that he's just like, hey man.
No, it's not. It's when I say lack of ambition, it's not that he's lazy. It's that, well, why don't you go do it? Go start the. Oh no, I couldn't. I have too much to do. I could never.
I already said yes to these 10 things.
It's more of a timidity.
Mm-hmm.
Timidness.
Timidity. Yeah. Okay.
Timidity should be a word.
It is now. The timidity of this character.
Yeah.
His name is Timidity Cobbler.
Yeah.
And okay, there's something to that. That he. No, I can't. It's not that you can't. It's that you won't.
Yeah.
You should. You want to do this. It's something you talk about all the time.
Like, should it be as on the nose as he would love to? He always imagined being a great adventurer, and then he is literally thrust into this adventure.
That I don't mind that.
So then when he comes back, his full arc is he comes back and people start showing up at the shop and saying, "Hey, could you take us up that mountain?" And so now he is the guide into adventure that he always wanted to be.
Yes, I think there is something to that. That he dreams of being an adventurer. Alternate.
You're talking about being a crybaby right now.
Yeah.
I'm tearing up.
You're choking up
at my own idea.
That
happens. That happens all the time on this podcast.
I think we're onto something. An alt of that would be that he wants to write adventures. That he's an aspiring adventure writer, but he can't write adventures if he's never been on them.
Sure.
It could just be an adventure. He just wants to be an adventurer.
I like the idea. So for it's not fair to have this stereotype of writers, but to me, writers are shut-ins that stay in, and he already is that being a cobbler.
Then I decline, or I retract that.
For whatever reason, I like the idea of it ending with him saying, "Yeah, we go this way," and like wearing a backpack and a bunch of people following him.
Well, as someone who runs a shop, he is asking people like, "Where do you travel in your shoes? Tell me this. Where did these? Wow, how did you get these holes in these shoes? Like, tell me your adventure."
Oh, because shoes are what you wear on every adventure.
Yeah.
Okay, so we connected his starting job
to what he wants to do.
Yeah.
He wants to
explore. He wants to see the world.
And now, how do the elves play into this? Because right now we've created a scenario where let's get back a little bit to the fact that the magic of the elves helps him, and that makes him seem like a wizard, and therefore he's the one to send after the giant. I think that still tracks, right?
Yeah.
And now he's being thrust on the adventure he had always wanted. And his flaw is not ever truly making time for himself. Is that what you said?
It's
a lack of ambition,
timidness.
He's too shy,
right? Like even he refuses the call. You have to go slay the giant. No. You're gonna.
But I have a whole list of shoes I have to do. Oh, jeez. Do we still want the spouse to be part of the story?
Nope.
Okay, that's fine, because part of Pixar's rules is if you can cut a character, cut it. And as of right now,
if we can think of a thing for a spouse to do, that's also, I keep saying he. It could be a she cobbler.
Yes, agreed. Yeah, it could very very well be. Let's go to the rules of Pixar as we explain the story to me again. Give it to me in the simplest term. Do you want to do it as the once upon a time?
A timid shoemaker dreams of a life of exploration and adventure, but finds
every day finds a reason not to go.
There, that's the way to put it.
One day.
One day, they they're going to be evicted, and the magical people that live under his cupboards take pity on him. We left out his overly generous nature.
That's fine.
He's going to be evicted because he is too generous.
Just imagining the two elves, like they're looking through the cracks, and he's like, "Look at him! He's literally giving the shirt off his back."
Yeah, that's good. So they see this, take pity on him. Oh, it's not entirely pity because it's technically also their home.
It's also our house. That's one of the flaws of the elves. Like, I'm not helping them because I want to. I'm helping because I don't want to move again. A surly little elf. I love it. No, don't give him anything. There we go. We have our opposite.
Yeah. And I like that more. I like the elves being his counterpart.
So one day they help him.
Because
of that,
which gains the attention of the powers that be, the town, the lord, the hoity-toity,
the lord of this town,
the hoi polloi.
The hoi polloi?
Is that the right use of that term? And they mistake the elves' magic for his magic, accuse him of being a wizard, and force him to go slay the giant.
Yes.
In so doing, he actually befriends the giant, convincing it to go home. We can actually fit a whole
visit to the clouds.
Yeah,
possibly. And then,
something like that.
And then he returns. So the adventure there and back,
and
he returns.
He returns triumphant
and able to say no and stand up for himself. And now having had an adventure.
Yeah.
So then he
and do you think so? The no, would that be resolved in when he returns? The evil lord, the jerk lord, doesn't have to be evil, who sent him to do the thing. Now, it maybe even starts being like, "Oh, good, you're a wizard. Now I can send you to go do this." And that's when he finally says, "No, I don't think I will."
Yeah, I'm gonna go back to my shop and I'm gonna take a nice long nap and have a sandwich. He's going to have a sandwich. Did you hear that? He's going to have a sandwich. Do you want my shirt? No! Backslide. There and back again. A little cobbler's tale. Okay, so we need to admire the character for trying more than... Okay, I'm going to look at now the 22 rules of storytelling by Pixar. So these are the rules that... this came out online a long time ago. This applies to any writer, to any genre, but this is the rules that Pixar follows. So we need to admire the character for trying more than for their successes. So the trying is more important than whether or not they succeed. So creating a character who, at first, we're seeing him try to please everyone. And that's admirable. Trying to please all the people all the time. It's like the old saying, guys, you can please all the people all the time. That's not the saying! So we should admire this character for trying. He tries to please everyone. He tries to go on an adventure. He tries to defeat the giant.
I think even early on. So to show that flaw, he tries to please everyone. Doesn't necessarily succeed, no matter how much he gives. There's a certain point where some people come in their pristine shoes, but they have to find something wrong with it because they know if they can do something, he'll go, "Oh, no charge. I'm so sorry. Yeah. Let me fix that."
And putting a character on a road trip of adventure, we're going to see him, the character, try many times to achieve things, whether or not they succeed or not. So cool.
And I imagine early on it would be also they would maybe an adventurer he's actually fixing an adventurer's boots, and a neighbor mentions why don't you go? It's not that hard. That's just up the hill. I couldn't do that.
If I get all the way up the hill, I'll miss my chance to help you with your garden. We got to keep in mind what's interesting to the audience, not what's fun as a writer. That can be very different.
Not in our case.
Sending sending a character on an adventure with little elves in a world with giants and potentially other magical creatures. Mm-hmm. Granted, I understand there's similarities to Onward, but Onward is a modern fantasy.
I think I'd want to play into certain not so nice fantasy tropes. This is a human town, so they're not so nice to these elves or giants or the goblins that live in the woods and things like that. And our character, the way I imagine he's different is he doesn't necessarily hold the same bias as all the people do. So one of the reasons he ends up being so good in his adventures is because he's friendly.
Yeah.
So he doesn't immediately attack the things. The things. Yeah.
Like, oh. How am I supposed to get across this bridge? Oh, well, there's a troll there that you're not going to want to talk to.
Yeah.
Trying...
Just throw some money at it and run across the bridge. Oh, I don't have any money. Maybe I'll talk to him. That's a bad idea. But it turns out
the breath on this
that is
lady.
The best idea.
Trying for theme is important, but you won't see what the story actually is until you've gotten to the end. Now rewrite it.
Well, I mean... Sure, but we're not gonna. That's not where we already know. We're building this sculpture. We're already doing it.
Yeah. But
we're not going to finish this episode and then be like, oh, it was about this the whole time.
No, we're hashing it out right now. Simplify, focus, combine characters, hop over detours. You'll feel like you're losing valuable stuff, but it sets you free.
There's no goblin and trolls. We just get to the giant.
Well, when I had suggested we go Cobbler, Brave Little Tailor, Jack and the Beanstalk, the Jack and the Beanstalk section, that does feel superfluous. Like getting to the giant and making that potentially the climax of the story. We might not need to go to the clouds. That could be one of those things that's like, too much, simplify it. Facing off against a giant can be very much the climax of a story. But then again, once we actually like break this down, it might feel like, no, we need to really go somewhere with this. This adventure hasn't gone far enough. So then a trip to the clouds and the giants up there. Honestly, getting to the giant and finding out this giant is the equivalent of the cobbler, but in his own world. Like getting up to the clouds and be like, oh no, you are a loser like me.
They sent me down here to
beat all you guys up. You guys keep sending things up into the clouds and they're not happy about it. That might be something like maybe there is something
like that. That's how they end up working out their differences.
We're not so different, you and I. Something that we've not really broken down or discussed here is what is the obstacle we understand. There's plenty of obstacles through this. Is there a Munson to go from up? Is there a Lotso Bear? Is there a villain? Is there
I was initially trying to make that the Lord.
Sure, and there could still be something to that it is the villain to be defeated or overcome is this representation of society that is this.
Well, to make there be someone direct, maybe that adventurer in the beginning that cheats our character out of his shoe fixing fee. They have been unable to defeat the giant. And they know this cobbler. He's no wizard. And so maybe they're tailing him and trying to trip him up.
Or like wait till he gets to the giant and then seize his opportunity to slay the giant.
Claim victory.
It's like, no, stop. I was just working this out. You lied to me, cobbler. I'm on a tear now. It's like, you screwed this up.
Maybe.
We might not need...
I don't think that's how I'd end up resolving that.
Yeah. And we might not need like a direct villain
to
face off, because even going to Brave, the obstacle to overcome there is I can't let my dad see I turned my mom into a bear. He's gonna kill my mom. That is the struggle there. There's more conflict to that. I just broke down to its simplest terms, but
if she did tell her dad, without having seen this, if she did tell her dad she did that, maybe he wouldn't kill their mom and instead help her turn her back?
Yeah, he's sworn vengeance on all bears.
Oh.
There's more to it than that. It's been a while since I've seen Brave. What is your character good at? He's a good
being friendly.
He's a good cobbler, right?
Yeah.
He's good at mending things.
That's a good way to put it.
What is
Actually, yeah, that's the perfect way to put it, both physically and socially, emotionally.
figuratively,
Yeah.
what is the main character comfortable with? What is your character comfortable with? Yeah, what is the if it's someone who's always saying yes and pleasing people, what is the thing that brings the cobbler comfort? Is it just laying down for finally to have a good night's rest? I'm
So you mean other than pleasing people, other than being other than
yeah, like what? Well, you know what he's good at. We know what the cobbler's good at, but what is the cobbler comfortable with? Because then the rule is throw the polar opposite at them and challenge them. How do they deal with it? So having our one of the elf characters being like, "Don't give him anything. Say no. Punch him in the nose. Stop giving stuff away." Like, I am just not comfortable with that. It's just easier if I just give them what they asked for. I'm not comfortable with confrontation. Well, I'm very comfortable with confrontation, and we're going to confront things.
okay, sure. If that satisfies
I think
this
that,
rule,
yeah. I
feel like I don't understand this.
I'm
rule.
just comfortable doing this. That like Woody is comfortable with Andy being his child, and he's comfortable with the world as it is. No disruption whatsoever. And then Buzz Lightyear shows up and throws the whole thing into turmoil. He loses control. Lightning McQueen is comfortable winning because he's the best there is, and everybody loves him. He's uncomfortable when he's thrown into a small town who's never even heard of him.
So, okay, so he's a people pleaser.
Yes.
Our character's a people pleaser, and I'm imagining so like there would be a stop on the way to the giant where they encounter a goblin village, and the goblins like once it's known that this human isn't there to torch their village and beat them up and stuff. And like he starts being nice to them and helping them. They're like, oh, and they start taking real advantage. And he's like, it'd be real nice to get past out that back gate there if I could to get in a minute. Could you so the goblins like super mooch and that's when the elf is like, what are you doing? Say no.
Just
so
say
like
no.
This is where the character has to finally, at least for that first time, learn to. No,
I'm gonna stand up for myself.
I think I've done enough. Yeah. I think it's time for me to go.
But you promised. I know I did, but I
never promised.
I agreed.
And I did that. I did that 4 times.
Well, we gotta do 5.
You didn't say how many you were going to do it. It's something like that. Well, 4 is enough.
Yeah. That challenges the comfort and throwing the opposite.
So he has to move, like, because clearly these goblins are moochers, and they won't just say, "Okay, cool, you did enough." And it's not until he stands up and says no that they like. Also, in doing that, the goblins are like, "Okay, cool, we've learned his boundaries, and so now at the end we're gonna be cool with him."
And I wonder if throwing the polar opposite at this cobbler character could come into the fact of someone else being overly generous to them. Because that would be the opposite of what they're used to. Everyone is always take, and if they come across someone who's give.
Oh, sure, that'd be fun.
Maybe there's a rogue or something that they come across. It's like, hey, you should have this. You should have this. Here, you should take this. You should take. Where did you get? Oh, wow, this is some nice jewelry. You should keep your jewelry. No. You hold on to the jewelry. You know what? Why don't you take this too? Why don't you have this? I'm just giving. Okay. This seems like very gracious of you. Yeah. Why don't you hold on to that for me? I need to go. Hey, there's all the stolen stuff. Get them.
Sure.
Just as a side quest adventure, or a tangential adventure of like, what a very generous individual. This is what I'm like, huh? Yeah, not great. Here's Rule 7, come up with an ending before you figure out the middle. Seriously, endings are hard. Get yours working out front.
I think he gets back home and I think we did that.
Yeah.
A bit succinctly, like we didn't dwell on the ending.
Just comes back and says, no, I don't think I will. And I like the idea of the sort of the denouement of this is the people coming in to have their shoes fixed and also recruiting the cobbler to take them places. Like, hey, Could you fix the shoes? This is great. Yeah. Why don't you leave it with my assistants over there? They'll take care of your shoes. I'm actually taking this group up to the top of the mountain for the day.
Sure.
And like, hey, yeah, we got you.
I think it'd be this would be worked out in the writing. I'm not sure if he would still be a cobbler at the end of it. Like,
But I
he
think-
might be done with that.
No.
Because he never really wanted to do it.
True, but he's good at it. He is good at it. He is good at mending things, and I think that part of our sub character, like subplot B story with the like earning your way kind of thing. If the elves have essentially been living rent free
That's true.
and mooching. If it's a matter of, hey, you taught me to stand up for myself. You guys can't keep living here and eating all my food for free. You have to pay your way. Okay. No, I like it.
so proud.
I'm so proud of him. He finally did it. Yeah, he's going to raise the rent every year too, I tell you. So I think
Sure.
that he does maintain his cobbler-ness, but now he's doing it because he wants to, because he is good at it. But now he's doing it on his own terms.
Okay. Maybe. We'll see. We'll see once we write it.
We'll see when we have it. Finish the story. Let go even if it's not perfect. In an ideal world, you have both a finished story and you can let it go, but move on. Do better next time. I don't think that applies here. We can't really do that.
That's talking about like perfect is the enemy of good.
Yeah.
Of finished.
Yeah. When you're stuck, make a list of what wouldn't happen next. And lots of times the material that is there will unstuck you.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think we have any like hurdles right now, but we did mash
We
our
will.
way.
Were we to actually make this a full script, we would
Yeah.
run into stuff to smooth out.
Pull apart stories you like. What did you like about them?
Oh, we did.
What did you like about them that is a part of you? You've got to reorganize it before you can use it. So what have we... I mean, we literally took a classic fable
We took two of them.
and mashed it together.
Mm-hmm.
But is there anything... is there another movie? So like... Escape from Alcatraz is Toy Story 3. Like the Great Escape is Toy Story 3.
Well, I mean, we're also talking about it. Brazil is one of my favorite movies.
Oh, Escape. There's
It's-
a bit of escape in there.
There's a lot. It's about a timid bookkeeper who's given this, through his mother's connection, given this middle management, not even middle management, just sort of this position at a company. An error occurs that he has to go serve the correction on. He meets a woman who is the woman who's appeared in his dreams, and he basically makes a shamble of his life trying to find her. Ultimately, he is captured by the terrible, terrible government and escapes them by going insane and thinking he has escaped with the love of his life.
Oh, that is a very sad ending. However, Pixar presents Brazil as kind of a neat spin on this. Like,
It is.
You know, there's a lot of similarities to that movie Brazil. Really?
I mean, it's only the same in that it's about a timid schlub of a character.
Right. Cars
Goes on an adventure.
Cars isn't actually Doc Hollywood, but it's very close. Put it on paper lets you start fixing it if it stays in your head. A perfect idea. You'll never share it with anyone. I say that all the time. If you got a great idea, write it down.
But they're perfect the way they are in my head.
It's true. But that's advice that was given
Yeah.
to me a long time ago by someone I'm going to see next weekend at Comic-Con,
nice.
actually. That if you have an idea, don't just tell people the idea. Put it down on paper or in your phone or somewhere, because if it just exists in your head and then you say it out loud, it escaped. And it exists in nothing. So it's like, if you have an idea that you really like, at least write it down. That's more of advice in general as a writer as opposed to what we're working on here.
It's advice I do a bad job of taking.
Give your characters opinions. Passive malleable might seem likable in real life, but as you write, it's not. It's going to poison the audience if your characters are passive. So, we've created this pushover character, having an opinion of, yes, I have to please everyone. Is that an opinion?
I don't know what they mean by that. What would be an example?
What? Like
of what do they mean by make
you
sure?
are a toy. You're a toy. That's it. You're a toy. I'm telling you, you're a toy. You're a strange, sad little man. I have to return to Star Command. No, listen to me. I'm telling you the truth. Oh, this is bad. This is the way it is. This is the way it has to be. You can't keep changing the system. The system is broken. Is broken if you break it. Like, I'm just like Woody's opinions are very strong, and then Buzz shows up and throws it all out the window.
Because he's also very headstrong.
Yeah, and if Woody says you are a toy, and Buzz goes, oh, okay, I'm a toy. Well, that was where's the drama? So having a character who believes something very strongly, whether it's an opinion or a fact, creates conflict in character relationships.
So in this one, like the way I imagine this going is this character very much. I don't know if he would say it that like he wouldn't adamantly say no, I will not commit violence and I will achieve everything through friendship. But that's basically what he does. Is he doesn't want to raise a hand against anyone else, and the adventure he's going on, everyone is expecting him to fight and slay or be slain.
There's other ways to resolve conflict. Like you have your elf characters, like don't give, don't be so generous. You can take what the world throws at you instead of taking it. You know what I mean? So there's some strong opinions in there, even if they are sweet opinions. No, I feel like I can get out of this by talking, and particularly if that doesn't work a couple times.
Sure, and that's what his boisterous elf friends are for.
Why don't you put that sword down? You don't need that sword. Oh, that's a very sharp sword, and that's a very sharp knife. You all have sharp knives. Maybe we could talk this out. I don't think we're going to talk this out. We need to run. Why must you tell this story?
Because it's the studio's demand.
That's true. That's the real. What's the belief burning within you that your story feeds off of? What's at the heart of this? And I think you touched on something because it literally choked you up. The idea of if you want to be an adventurer, if you want to go out there and do that, it's going to come with some sacrifices of time and generosity and the things that you believe you have to do. And I think more people should hear that. I think more people should hear it's okay to pursue your passions. Selfish is a bad thing, but it's not always a bad thing. Sometimes you got to be selfish to get what you truly want in this world, and how you then proceed from there.
You got to try. If you don't try, you'll never do it.
Yeah. So I think there's something in the messaging there. I think this is a story that needs to be told because of something like that. Certainly in the crafting of this whole story, there would be more to explore within these characters, but I think that's part of it, or at least not a good chunk of it. Pursue your dreams, because if you aren't just a little bit selfish, then you'll never do what you want to do. You'll just do what everyone else wants you to do. Yeah,
and no one else is going to want for you. Well, that's also not necessarily true. But I'll finish anyway. No one else is going to want your goals for you.
Yes, yeah. And then when you have the support system behind you that believes you can do it but can't force you to do it, the support of loved ones can only get you so far.
Yeah.
Like, I believe in you, but I believe you can do this, but you still have to do it. And maybe that's where the spouse plays in, if that character still exists, or one of the elves being very supportive of, like, I know you got it in you, Cobbler. I know, sure. I've seen it. I know you can do it, but you have to know it. You have to do it. Giving that to one of the elves, I think, is sweet.
Yeah, that or if you want to have a love interest, not a spouse, just another like a neighbor. Another shopkeeper
who believes in him,
who's always seen the cobbler, and knows.
Well,
like, you always get that adventurer's calendar.
But see, then therein lies the combining characters. An elf,
sure.
One of the elves would serve that perfectly. Someone who always sees them, who knows you always get that adventure, who's witnessed the cobbler not taking the chances.
Sure.
So it's combine a character right there. Not that there can't be town folk around that just kind of fill out the world.
Well, choose. Can there be, or is it the elf?
I don't know. If you were the character in this situation, how would you feel? Honesty lends credibility to unbelievable situations. I think the honesty in a story like this is, as creative types, we are literally risking everything to pursue adventure.
Yeah.
Creative artists, people who like true dreamers, who dream big and chase after those dreams, risk everything, being poor, failing is to get your degree in accounting and become an accountant. That's very cool. Like I am jealous of people who have not easily, but have set out to be a thing and got to be that thing. My cousin is a welder and he's amazing at it, and he's so happy.
Happy to be
He's so happy, and I'm like, wow. I wish it was as easy as get the degree, get the job, the end.
Yeah.
But it's always like, as a passionate artist, it's like, no more.
It's not just no more. It's there's a lot of proving in this that I feel. I guess you have to prove yourself in other jobs too. Like prove you can weld.
Yeah.
Okay, then we'll hire you. So maybe this is the wrong way to say this. It's not. Dang it, art is hard.
It is, yeah, there it is. And what are the stakes? Give us a reason to root for this character. What happens if they don't succeed? So stack the odds against them. So yeah, there's a good question. What is going to be lost if this Kyler doesn't, like, if he doesn't make the shoes, he loses the shop. If he doesn't go slay the giant, what does he lose? What are the stakes here?
He's going to be at best exiled, right? Like if you don't do it, we're kicking you out of the town.
And honestly, the stakes going to it is like, I could be squashed by a giant.
Yeah.
And then exiled or executed, like, is also part of the stakes.
Executed feels a bit dark for Pixar.
We're going to get him.
Yeah, he'll be got, and no one wants to get got.
Yeah. Or like spend the rest of your time in the dungeon or whatever. Like, yeah. If it's like pretty harsh punishment, like, you don't want to end up like the guy in the dungeon. I'm in the dungeon. It's dark and dank down here. But what does dank mean? Yeah, we got to get out of here. No work is ever wasted. If it's not working, let go of it and move on. You could always come back to it later. Much like the giant. Like we cut the giant cloud world, and then it's like, well, maybe we come back to that, or it just might end up in another script, right? You have to know yourself. The difference between doing your best and fussing. Story is testing, not refining. Jim.
What?
Don't fuss. Don't fuss, Jim.
I'm gonna fuss.
You're very fussy.
I am very fussy.
Coincidences to get characters into trouble are great. Coincidences to get them out of trouble is cheating.
That's a thing I think about. That's a rule I think about a lot with many movies.
I love coincidences that are like, oh, there's a wrench in the works. Oh no, like that's fun. That's Indiana Jones. That's Star Wars.
Yep.
Like coincidences to like
Mission Impossible.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
At its best, that's Mission Impossible.
That's Mission Impossible. And then people are like, that's a plot hole. It's like, no, that's storytelling.
Yeah.
But yeah, Deus Ex Machinas are the worst. To like, oh, unless something is set off to pay off, then it's not a Deus Ex Machina. It's like, no, we literally started at the beginning with that seed planted and it grew into this bush, and that's why we can hide behind it.
Yeah.
But yeah, coincidences to get out of trouble. Take the building blocks of the movies you dislike, and how can you rearrange them into what you do like? And this
this is going to launch a whole podcast.
Yeah. The studio demand. Actually, this gives me an opportunity to discuss DreamWorks and the things I don't like about DreamWorks are the very on-the-nose pop culture references that become dated within 5 years. Sometimes dated by the time the movie comes out. Like going back and watching Shrek, everybody was doing the Trinity jumps in the air and kicks move from the Matrix. There are things within DreamWorks movies that, while funny for the trailer and funny at the time they come out, they just become so trite and dated very quickly. And Pixar tends to avoid that sort of thing. Not all the time. Pixar's got some sins against them in terms of pop culture stuff, but minimal at best. So much so I can't even think of an example as I'm talking.
Yeah, I can't think of any.
You gotta identify with your situation and characters. You can't just write, cool, what would make you act the way the character acts? And I think that touches on the being a dreamer and wanting something, but afraid to make the time for it. And that's it. The DreamWorks cool look.
You know what? I think That's why I don't want him to be a cobbler at the end, because that's how I'm relating to this character. Cobbling is the thing he does to just get by in his life.
Sure.
It's not the thing he wants to do. And eventually when he can do the thing he wants to do, why would he keep doing the day job?
Okay, then perhaps the elves...
But I'm able to put to word why I didn't like that. I get why you were putting him there, but that's why. So now that I've said it out loud, I can work toward it being okay with that as well. But that, sorry,
no, that's right.
I don't know if that's what the rule was talking about, but I was just thinking about like, me in the character's position, like I don't want to go back to cobbling.
Yeah,
no, it's not what I want to do.
And that's identifying with the character, and there might be a variation in the ending where he gives the elves the shop, and now he rents a room there. Like they're the ones who want to make shoes. They've literally been doing it at night without anyone knowing about it. Like, it's just my dream. I just want to make shoes.
They're sneakerheads. Actually, that'd be kind of fun. Like, it's revealed. Like, it's revealed they have a whole shoe collection.
Yeah,
like in the wall or something.
Whoa, these are my Air Jordans.
Pop culture reference.
Yeah, no, I won't do that. What is the essence of the story? Most economical telling of it. If you know that, you can build out from there. The essence of the story. And I think we've come back to it multiple times.
So,
yeah.
A few of these rules, and understandably so, are a little redundant.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah.
But I think that's more of like tumbling. These rules are a little bit redundant because they tumble the story through all of these things, and you end up with a real shiny rock.
Yeah. A diamond.
Ooh.
So the story of a cobbler who dreams of adventure, and through a series of circumstances, a timid, an overly generous cobbler who has the help of some elves gets mistaken for a wizard and told to go slay a giant, and is sent on a road trip adventure through a world that doesn't quite understand why someone would be so nice. Takes advantage of it, mocks it, just cannot comprehend it. And little by little, interacting with people, the cobbler changes them, and the experiences change the cobbler until reaching the conclusion of facing off against a literal giant and proving what truly does work for this person and what needed to change to get where they are, to then head back to where they started with the strength to say no and to pursue what they've always truly wanted. That is the story of the cobbler, Pixar's Cobbler.
So and then, so just thinking of a detail. So at the end, like I feel like his learning to say no should be a part of his the climax of overcoming the giant. So in his conversation with the giant about like, hey, you're sitting on half of our town, well, not because he has to go on an adventure to get there.
You created a disruption. Every time you do a cannonball into this lake, you create a typhoon that wipes out half my village.
Something like that. So then like the giant's like, oh, can you help me with this? And he helps him. And can you help me with this? Yes. Oh, and I really want to basically. I had it in my head. The giant basically essentially asks the cobbler to give up his town in some way, and I could really almost thinking about like the Taylor story, how the giant like picks up the silo or the cart of pumpkins and just starts eating them
like
all.
Candy,
because he doesn't really know anything, and he's just assuming. This is the biggest assumer that taker that our cobbler has come across, and in the end, what saves their valley, their glen, whatever, is him saying, no,
this has to stop.
That's the line. You can't cross that line.
You can't have my town.
Yeah,
you've taken everything else, whether I gave you permission or not. Well, anyone and I'm saying no. This is it. You can't just keep taking and taking and taking. In fact, I need you to give me something. And you know what?
I need you to go back to the clouds, or
yeah. And now coming to the end and talking about this face off against a giant, we are kind of delving into like what this story is about. Like
that rule that I said wasn't going to happen is happening.
The idea that it's an artist pursuing not taking the time to pursue what they want because they are giving too much of themselves. But coming to that, like, no, you've taken too much, and it's now, and I'm done letting you walk all over me. Like, that's
the giant is the completed work, and he has to walk away because you won't achieve perfection.
But yes, there's that.
Oh,
but also
that wasn't
that wasn't what I was going for. It's just because Pixar does do a good job at reflecting some societal issues, whether it's on a microcosm or a macrocosm, and it's a little bit of like the big giant taking and taking and taking until the little one who just dreams of adventure has to say, "This is enough, enough. You've taken too much.
Yeah,
you've sapped this world of the goodness that it was bestowing upon you in the first place. You're a giant. You already have everything.
Yeah.
Stop taking and just go away." Because if we all rally together, it's not just going to be one me little tiny cobbler telling you to say no. It's going to be all of us saying no. Woo! Uh-oh. I think I'm having a Pixar moment right now. I'm like pumped up right now. Like thinking of the strikes, thinking of the government, thinking of like the society we live in.
There it is. Now you put your face. Yeah. Like I knew that's what you're building to. Yeah. You said the quiet part loud.
There's the Pixar moment right there. Standing up, the bullied and the trodden upon, finally saying no. This is enough. You've gone too far.
Do you want to go so far as to the lord of the town somehow is maybe this is going too far, is actually derives their power from the giant?
An enabler.
Yeah. And once the giant's down, they come back. Like that's actually one of the reasons the Lord shrinks away.
Yeah.
From this wizard who's returned and vanquished the giant.
Yes, I think so. That there's that it's. If the giant is Sid, to go to Toy Story, the Lord is or the Lordess, or whatever, the leader of the village is essentially the conflict that Buzz and Woody had that they need to overcome. Like there's two conflicts. There's the personal figurative conflict between these two opposing forces and the literal physical manifestation of a problem that needs to be overcome. Taking it all the way back to the original of Pixar. Yeah. I think that we're actually going to start wrapping up here. Did
we get all 22 rules?
We did, yeah.
Okay.
The thing I could admit is this being fantasy based. I think the colorful characters of this, the elves themselves, the cobbler, like creating cute merchandisable things here is there's plenty to draw from.
Yeah.
Looking at Luca and Onward, which are two fantasy stories and not contemporary, they are other times. The world didn't connect with those like it did with Cars and with Toy Story and whatnot. Even Brave didn't connect, and perhaps fantasy isn't what the people want.
In my mind, the way this would look, I see like a combination of like I'd actually look at Frozen a lot.
So from the studio that brought you, what are the titles you're throwing up there? Because that's what Disney's very good at saying. From the studio that brought you Wreck-It Ralph, okay, I liked Wreck-It Ralph. What are you going to sell me? It's they're not going to say Encanto, right? From the studio that brought you Moana and Frozen, we present Encanto. Oh yeah, it creates the headspace for it. So what are you throwing up there? Disney from the studio that brought you.
Visually, I see like a combination of like Frozen for like the environments and stuff like that. The Brave Little Tailor, I think has a lot of good visuals for the characters.
The classic Mickey.
Right. Like I'm imagining that giant, and I see the giant and the people, the creatures, kind of
eating the pumpkins. You know what? Yeah. In this, we are doing a full-on homage of eating the pumpkins, just like that dope did.
Is he going to smoke a bale of hay?
No, probably not. I forgot about that. That's good. Okay. Yeah. The Coco is just the pinnacle of beauty in what an already beautiful company has created.
Mm-hmm.
If you, Jim, you haven't seen Coco, it's so beautiful. It's a beautiful story. It's beautiful characters. It's beautiful on a technical level. It's just gorgeous. I stayed with Scholze, and his son was like obsessed with Coco and watched on a loop the entire time I was there. I think I saw it 12 times. Cried every time.
Nice.
Like it never didn't work. But I like this. This is fun. We had to pick something, and I'm glad we landed on something that we could develop with simplicity and fun within it, and coming to a complex conclusion.
I was initially reluctant because I really wanted to animate like I wanted to give life to something inanimate. But I do like what we came up with here.
I'll tell you what. As I'm wrapping up here, you think of an inanimate object. You could throw it at it.
To me, it was the notion of personifying movies.
Well, we'll come back to that.
I thought was
that can be in the bonus. That can be
okay.
We'll come back to the personification of movies. But I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to wrap up the episode.
Okay.
So, Lon, first of all, thank you for following me over from Disney's Top Shelf, the Ghost Hat production. Like, thank you for coming over for this, and we need to know if we did this. Did we? This was a lot of like technical breakdown. This is the Pixar method. Here's a half hour of like what they do. Mm-hmm. So I am curious about how this episode played out in the long run. Did A, we meet your demand, and B, did we do it in an entertaining fashion?
Yeah.
So, but agree, disagree. What did we miss? Because we surely missed something. But also help us out. What other ideas can you throw in here? What are some other mystical and fantastical things that our cobbler could run into? The Goblin Village, a little gremlin village, I think is very funny.
Yeah.
There's something to that. But yeah, let us know. You can message us directly at studiodemandsit.com, on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at Studio Demands It. If you're not already, you can subscribe to wherever you're listening to your podcast. And if you feel like giving us a little 5-star review, you can do that in-app, and it really helps the show get out there into the algae rhythms. You can also find us on YouTube and TikTok, where we are posting video content this year, including material not heard here on the show. The TikTok subscriptions have been like jumping lately, so thank you those who've gone over there to subscribe on TikTok and are not giving me a hard time about accidentally posting videos twice. It's getting more views. But those of you who have come from TikTok over to the podcast, thank you for that as well. You can find me at TC's Big Head on Twitter if you want to message me directly, or if you need to hunt down Jim for some money he owes you, you can also reach him there through me. I'll get him for you. Yeah. And big news, if you did not know, we do have a Patreon available for a couple bucks a month. You can get episodes early, as well as extended double-length episodes. For example, we did a whole half hour before this episode began on Star Wars: Heir to the Empire, and Jim also has a topic he bookmarked for extended conversation.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll be a fun conversation. It's more of a, I was thinking about this, and what can you think of any examples? So it might be like 15 minutes of no. I can think of no examples.
I will always have an example ready, but yeah. So if you want to subscribe to the Patreon and get some of that extra content, we appreciate you for those who have jumped on board. But thank you to Sixfive Media for everything they do for us. Please check out the other Sixfive shows. We will be doing the Another Zelda podcast crossover episode this season coming up, so keep an eye out for that. That's it for this episode. Jim, you've had time to come up with final thoughts. Anything else that you'd like to share with the people before we crush it out of here?
Well, I'm thinking about that Act 2 is escalation, and I like the goblins, and I think I like the idea of a bridge troll. I'm trying to think of something that is bigger than a troll but smaller than a giant, because the increasing size of the fantastical things we come across.
Sure.
I like to just kind of keep the metaphor, the analogy,
the giant getting bigger.
Yeah.
Well, I did suggest coming across a thief who's giving,
sure,
like dumping everything off on. Can you carry this for me? Can you
carry?
Perhaps that thief we see multiple times over the course, like they keep popping up and like, here,
sure,
hold this.
Yeah.
You have a whole.
Oh, that's fun.
You have a whole horse and cart. Just can you carry this stuff? Yeah. A leprechaun. I don't know. That's it for this episode. We're gonna keep chatting on after this, but we'll be back again soon to take on your demands, to challenge to improve the world of cinema. I am TC.
A leprechaun's not a bad idea. Because the nature of, like, he comes across a leprechaun in his pot of gold, and the leprechaun is the embodiment of selfishness
And
greed and hoarding in that moment.
maybe the leprechaun stole the gold from a dragon.
Oh, maybe.
Dun, dun,
A
dun.
dragon. A dragon is bigger than a troll and smaller than a giant.
There you go.
He could come across a dragon. And that's why the thief is there. The thief stole the stuff from the dragon. The dragon is chasing. When he sees our character with all the gold
Give me that
on
gold.
him, he's like, that's my gold!
Little dragon. All right, everybody. We'll see you next time.
I'm Jim, by the way.
Yes, you are.